Now, Asia One's Pakistan Bureau Chief Anas Mallick has talked to Ms. Laurie Watkins, a former policy advisor to President Barack Obama, an award-winning author and a well-known political and foreign affairs contributor on the sidelines of the Indus Water Treaty Seminar in Islamabad.
I have with me Ms. Laurie Watkins, a public policy holder, if I'm not mistaken, someone who's been part of the national security team as well. You're here in Islamabad. Thank you so much and taking out time for Asia One. At the Indus Water Treaty Seminar, you're here at this awareness session. How do seminars or awareness sessions like these help in projecting and facilitating the next steps, especially at a point when the treaty is actively being held in abeyance by India?
The message that I heard today internationally was collective, and the collective message was the same, which didn't surprise me, but it was very refreshing to hear an international body come together like this and be on the same message, which is withholding water or using water as a weapon of war is absolutely abhorrent, and no country should be able to do that, especially when you are locked into a 1960 IWT agreement that is internationally and legally binding, and one party can't just decide to pull out of that agreement. That's not how it works. And if they decide to do that, it doesn't nullify the agreement either. And the international community, in my opinion, I shared some of this in my remarks, needs to come and be more vocal and come to the table. There were a number of countries here, but there were a larger number that were not here. And I'm sure that it wasn't because they weren't invited. It has to be a priority for them. And where I think that can come into play is using foreign policy and using diplomacy as soft power levers that could eventually lead to a big negotiation or signing a peace treaty with one another. But you have to start at the basics, which is talking to one another. And if the two sides are not even speaking, as Pakistan is very aware of, because they are playing this mediator role with the United States in Iran right now. So they have demonstrated that they are good partners, they can be good partners, but we need the other party, we need India to come to the table and be able to put down whatever swords that they have and realize that this isn't going anywhere. The international community will step up, meaning if this gets exacerbated and gets further into a potential war-like situation again, we saw what happened last year. I don't want that to happen at all. Another thing I'd like to mention that is critically important if you're going to really be honest in moving forward is data sharing. Allowing inspectors to come in, sharing the data, because the minute that you start withholding that information and gatekeeping it, you lose public trust, and you also lose trust with your partner and your ally. And also having regular inspections, not, oh, we're supposed to have it every 6 and 12 months and then a year goes by and nothing has happened. That is not acceptable either. So having rules in place that people are going to abide by and starting to move towards a partnership. But I know that's easier said than done, but I do believe I wouldn't be here if I didn't think this is very important, because this affects us all. Just because South Asia, you all have an IWT issue between your two countries doesn't mean that other countries are not affected. That's what we heard here today, by water. Water flows. There's 302 different river sources that merge and come together that countries rely on. That is not a small number. So you can imagine if 320 just decided, let's rip up our agreements. What would that do to global order? What would that do to the environment?
Okay, so it's interesting you talk about how the countries have to come together. At the same time, there are certain countries who are not there in the room. You're coming from the United States. And while it has been, Pakistan's been actively facilitating US-Iran, the US president at the time had literally pulled that plug on the ceasefire and made sure that it happens, and forced India. At the same time, the onus for talks lies on India. That's what Pakistan has been saying. we've not seen much movement coming in from the US policymakers on the issue of water, something as sensitive.
Correct. You are correct about that. And I believe that there could be some better relationship or more vocal messaging from the United States on behalf of Pakistan. Or using some of these diplomatic meetings where you possibly are just talking about something else. Marco Rubio, for example. I'll give you an example. Marco Rubio just went to India. Do you think he talked about that with Modi? I don't know. I don't know. My answer is I don't know because I've never heard about that meeting or any specifics, especially about the IWT, come out of that readout from that meeting. So that leads me to believe that it wasn't discussed. My example that I'm using is because I think that's a missed opportunity. A missed opportunity by our diplomats, by our chief diplomat, to have Pakistan's back.
So, in your opinion, and let me just reiterate, I think the US needs to put on more pressure. But at the same time, there's a very interesting US-India relationship. And in that context, not a lot has been done when it comes to safeguarding Pakistani interests, given the fact that Pakistan-US relations are separate from US-India relations.
Yes.
So do you think that is there a need for Pakistani policymakers to do more, or is there a need for the US policymakers to understand Pakistani position?
Oh, that's an easy answer. I think that the United States needs to do a better job of understanding Pakistan. This is my third time here. I adore Pakistan. I adore the people. Everyone has been lovely. People that came here for the peace talks, I was here. They got a sense of that. We saw the public relations after of all the journalists saying, oh my gosh, the hospitality in Pakistan and in Islamabad was amazing. That's just, in my opinion, from coming here, that's just a fraction of what you get. That's a fraction of the special qualities and essence of Pakistanis. And the history. There's very long, complicated history. And I think if the United States had the will to pay more attention, but I kind of can't blame them. They have a lot going on right now that they're trying to manage. So not to say that this isn't an important issue. It absolutely is. But
Priorities need to be set.
according to them, priorities need to be set.